read up upon it, and when I saw the pictures and the images, and I was like, okay, this is not happening. I'm not going there. Do you guys know what you're doing? You're taking your kids there? Like, from everywhere we would get this negativity, and I had a lot of negativity. It felt like a scene from a horror movie. And I was just looking, and after like about 5 or 6 minutes, a car passed by. My daughter was 3 years old. So she was sitting in the shopping cart, and I had to take her out, and she got stuck. And she started crying, and I started crying while we were waiting for the cab. So we got back to the hotel, and I told my husband, I said, you know what? The passport is not worth it. So we saw fields like -60. We saw that. Like actual minus 45, 46, and then feels like -60. They had like a special kind of blanket that you had to put on your car battery, otherwise it would not, the car wouldn't start in the morning. Our cell phones, a couple of times they would just stop working because it was so cold. And then in summer there would be no darkness, so there would be twilight. The sun would set at about 12:30, and then at about 2 it would rise again.
Hello, friends. So today the guest I have with me is Wajeeha Hussain. I know her for quite some time. We are family friends. But the reason I have her today is for her to share her experience with regards to coming to Canada and settling in Canada. Now, anyone who comes as an immigrant to Canada, they have a challenging story of their own. And primarily, or usually, it's around not being able to get a job in the month they come, in the week they come, or the day they come. So it's kind of a transition there. However, Wajeeha has a very special story, which is slightly different from very normal challenges that any immigrant would face here in Canada. But before going into the challenges, I think let's start with asking Wajeeha what made her decide on moving to Canada, and why did she decide on Canada? Why not anywhere else when she decided to move to as an immigrant? So, Wajeeha, how about you introduce yourself and let us know what was your decision making like with regards to coming to Canada?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Beros, for having me here. And I'm really happy to see the progress of your channel. I remember the initial days when you were thinking about doing this, and you've come a long way, and then the content is really helpful. So yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So yeah, as Beros mentioned, my name is Wajeeha Hussain. I am originally from Karachi, Pakistan. Born, studied, worked there, got married there, and then we did a bit of globetrotting. So we lived in South Africa, and then we lived in Dubai, and then we've been living in Canada for the last decade now. I work in the human resources field. I've worked in Pakistan, South Africa, Dubai, and now here. I haven't seen my field, and I have a husband, and I have 2 kids, and we're very well settled here. Canada is home now. So that was about your question of why we chose Canada. So it was not just my decision. So me and my husband, we mutually decided on this. We got married in 2005, fairly young at that point in time. We were both doing good in our careers, but like everyone else, we wanted to move out. We wanted to have an option for our future family, for ourselves. We considered HSMP. It was the program that UK was offering at that point in time, and actually they were offering it even before 2005. So we had thought about, okay, that's a good option. It was close to home, but by the time we actually were actually trying to do something about it, they had stopped the program. The other only 2 options were Australia and Canada. Canada was the clear winner. Australia was far, and we had family in North America. So my brother and my sister, they've been living in the States for they had been living, now my entire family is here. They had been living since 1990s. My brother-in-law was in Calgary, so naturally Canada was just, we knew people here. There were many people from our university here, from our work here. So, and it was easy. When we did it, it was not that hard. Like we just did it ourselves. We did not involve any consultant. I remember the way we did our application, like very like didn't really have to do much. Went with the flow. It happened. It came, and then when we got the acceptance, and then we had to go for our medical. At that point, my husband got transferred to South Africa. So we had to delay the process a little bit. We had to do the medical twice. And then our daughter was born, so we had to include her. So our application, although very, like it was very easy, but it got delayed because of our transfers. When we actually got the landing papers and when we knew that we had 5 years to do this, we were living in Dubai at that point in time. And Dubai, you would know, Barrows, that the Dubai life is very, very convenient if you're making decent amount of money. Like it's truly the best of both worlds, right? It's very close to Pakistan. You get the best of Eastern and Western. It's very comfortable. We had a nanny and a chauffeur, and I wasn't even working full time. Just with like a decent single income, we were able to afford a good lifestyle. But Dubai is not permanent. We all know that. And then I think uh, my husband at that point, he really pushed to do it as soon as we could. And in hindsight, we think that was a right decision because we were young when we came here. We were in our early 30s. So it was not that hard to face the hardships that we're going to talk about now.
Cool, cool. Now, thank you for the intro. Now, let me give you a prompt, which is rather before talking about the prompt, let me share one thing, which is I usually advise people when they are deciding where to move is to look where they have a better social circle, because it just becomes very easy to assimilate, especially when you're going in a country where you don't know anyone, where you don't have family friends. I think it becomes challenging. So I think there are two primary things that you should be considering. One is the social, and other is economics. Economics probably you'll find kind of similar in Australia, Canada, although with Canada you can argue you have the US next to Canada, which is the biggest economy. But the other piece is social. So I agree with you on how you kind of made your decision. Um, Now, the challenge I faced when I came was, or the cribbing I would do is, I had to take a step down in my career. And that was something it took some time for me to get back up. So when people ask me about my challenges, I go like, yeah, you have to take a step down. It's tough to find a job and all, but eventually you'll get there. With you, I'll give you a prompt, and then I want you to share whatever comes to your mind and how you want to go there. And we'll discuss more is yellow knife. So can you speak to that? What is about what is Yellowknife and about Yellowknife for that matter?
Okay, it's funny now because in the Pakistani expat circle, at least, we are known as the couple that went and lived in Yellowknife because a lot of Pakistanis, including ourselves, we had no clue what Yellowknife was. So when you think of Canada, I used to think of only Toronto, GTA, and Calgary to an extent because my brother-in-law was living there. Vancouver, although we know of Vancouver, not many people that I personally know live there. So yeah, it was always Toronto. Like it was always when we move, if we move, it will be there. We have family, we have friends. US is just like 2.5 hours away. So when uh, we came here, we did our landing. We did our landing in Calgary. Actually, we went back, and then we were focusing all our efforts on finding something in the GTA, get networking here, even while we were in Dubai. And then at that time, my brother-in-law, who was in Calgary and Alberta at that point in time, was going through the boom, right? So there were jobs there. The jobs paid well there. So he was he was pushing us to opt for Calgary. It's like you won't find jobs in the GTA and Calgary. Here you will get paid better. But we had monitored kind of the cyclical boom that Calgary is known for, and unfortunately, like that it goes up and then goes down, and so we were like, okay, this is stable, and like you said, this is so close to New York. Yes, it will take time, but we will find something sustainable, something more stable here. And then I was like, it's too far. Calgary is too far. I'm not going there. Like it's Toronto is the farthest that I can go. We came here. We Shafqat came. So my husband, he came in May. I joined him in August. So obviously, ever since, like as soon as he landed here, he was still working for his job in Dubai, but he was actively job searching. And I was also, as soon as I joined him in August, I was job searching as well. And we started meeting people. And like you said, it's the job opportunities that you get there, a couple of steps below your what you were used to, or you're eating from your savings, and these are not good experiences. Like it's easier said than done. Like stay positive and stay focused. It's hard to stay positive. So August came. Till August, September, we were only focusing on the GTA. Then we started applying a little further. Okay, and then by September, October, Shafqat started sending resumes all over Canada. It's like I'm just applying whatever I see that's related to my field. I was like, okay. And then he one fine day he said, I have an interview. Virtual interviews weren't a thing back then actually, but he was like, I have an interview for a position in the government of Northwest Territories. And I said, what the hell? Like, where is that? And he was like, Northwest Territories is about like 2 hours, 3 hours flight from Calgary, and like it's 500 kilometers below the Arctic Circle. That's where the place is. And I was like, so he applied as a just apply, and also appeared in the interview just like that. Like we were like, why will he find, like why will they hire him? And then first interview happened, it went well, and then second interview happened, and then it started to like it felt like, okay, this can happen. And that's when I started researching on Yellowknife, and I was like, okay, what the hell is this place? And then when I read up upon it, and when I saw the pictures and the images, and I was like, okay, this is not happening. I'm not going there. I'm someone, I'm from Karachi, which is a fairly hot place, and I would have a heater in Karachi as well, because I was always very cold. We were moving from, like, we were living in Dubai the year we moved here, so yeah, plus 50. And then I was like, okay, this goes down to minus 50, and it's a town of 20,000 people. And so while he was interviewing, and I was like, okay, we're not doing this. Even if you find some, if they offer you this, we're not doing this. And then they offered him the job. And by that time, we were hoping that we'll find something here, either him or myself. Nothing happened. We were already in November, so we'd been without a job for about 3-4 months, and then he was like, you know what? Let's just do this. I think this is what God has planned for us. Let's just give it a shot. And then we shared with our family. So my brother, my parents, his brother, his parents, and everybody was like, most people did not even know what this was, right? So they had to. And then when they would read up on it, they were like, you guys cannot survive there. Like, how are you going to, like, it's winter already. My brother-in-law said, leave the family with me in Calgary and you go and live over there. My brother was like, I hope you guys are thinking, like, you've thought this through. And so we went on Facebook, and we went on LinkedIn, and we tried to look for people that we knew, or like through friends, and we found about one person that we knew through a friend's friend, and then we talked to them. I remember we called them from here, and this person said, yeah, it's fine, there's about 8 families here, and then we get our meat from Edmonton, like, because you know the usual questions, where do we get meat, do you get like the groceries that Pakistanis and Indians are used to? And it's like, we get everything from Edmonton. It's fine, you like it. It's like, okay, whatever. So we were like, let's go. So I remember I went to my kids' school to tell them that we will be moving there. So the person at the administration desk, he was like, Yellowknife? Have you been there? Do you know what you're going for? I was like, no. She said, okay, it's not going to be easy. I came back home, I told my husband, I said, this is what she said. Then the movers that came to pack our stuff, it was a Caucasian guy, Canadian. And one, so there were two guys. One guy said, if they pay me three times, four times of what I make here, even then I wouldn't go there. The other person said, do you guys know what you're doing? You're taking your kids there? Like, from everywhere we would get this negativity, and I had a lot of negativity in me as well. Like, I was not comfortable with the decision. My cousins here said, why don't you do, like, take up a job at the warehouse? Just do something. You'll find something. Drive an Uber. At that point, me and my husband, we were like, we're not going to do this. He said that is going to be a bigger challenge for me if I have to do something that's not related to my field. So we're young, we'll just go, we'll see. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We'll come back. At least we would have tried. He said, if you tell me to work at a warehouse, that is going to be more challenging for me. And uh, he was right. So I was like, okay, we'll go. So I remember we landed there. It was December 9th. The night we landed there, it was minus 45. It was about 10 in the night. We got to the hotel. We slept. Next morning, he had to go to work. I slept in. So when I woke up, it was about 10:30. And I looked outside the window, and it was all white and no movement whatsoever. Like, it felt like a scene from a horror movie. And I was just looking, and after like about 5 or 6 minutes, a car passed by. And I was just looking at that, and this was about 10:30 in the morning, and at around 1:45, 2ish, it got dark again. So the sun would come out only for about an hour and a half, 2 hours max. And so I waited for my husband to come back home, and then we had to go for our groceries. And then we thought we had prepared ourselves well with the snowsuits and then gloves and everything. But what I did not realize was between my jackets, the sleeve and the gloves, the air was going in from there, and it was just, I felt as if like my I couldn't feel my hands. And then remember, my daughter was 3 years old, so she was sitting in the shopping cart, and I had to take her out, and she got stuck. And she started crying, and I started crying while we were waiting for the cab. So we got back to the hotel, and I told my husband, I said, you know what? The passport is not worth it. I cannot do this to my kids. I cannot do this to myself. I'll move back to Pakistan or Dubai. And if you want to stay, you stay. When you find work in a decent place, I'll join you. And I said that, you know what, there's no way I'm sending my kids to school in this weather. So we're going to homeschool them. We had a lot of fights the first 15-20 days because we were just questioning our decision. Like, okay, is this worth it? Is it not worth it? Why are we doing this? Like, coming from Dubai. But you know what happened? So obviously we had to communicate, and then we sat down, and he was like, you know what, let's just give it 2-3 months. And I promise you, if it doesn't work out, we'll go back. If we don't want to send the kids to school, we won't send them to school. Like, we'll figure this out. And he said, just do me a favor, come with me tomorrow. We'll meet a recruiter, and we'll see if you can find something. But it was within a week I found a job in my field because people don't like going there. So I found a job right away. We found a really good school for the kids. In about 3 to 4 weeks, we were all in a routine. We found one Pakistani family couple with a young kid. Like, we became friends with them. Things started falling in place. So we would all leave together in the morning. It was a very small town, so like 20,000 people. The same people you would find at the Tim Hortons and in the kids' school and then at work and then Walmart. Like, you could tell people by face. There was nothing. There was no mall. There was no normal like Gap or Old Navy or like no normal stores. There was no, like, if you online shopping, it would take like weeks and weeks for anything to get there. We spent weeks without meat because like our groceries would come from Edmonton, and if there was a snowstorm or if the weather was bad, the trucks couldn't bring groceries. So we had to survive without normal basic things like apples at time. Like it was just, I just feel that it was a very different lifestyle. Very, very different lifestyle. Very different from what I was used to before. But it just added a lot of perspective. Um I feel that uh, when I came back here, I started like things that I used to take for granted before. I realized the importance of like small things like the sun. Now it's it's 10 years for me in Mississauga, and again, I am still someone who feels very cold. But in the winter, our winter, we have the sun, we see people, and I'm just happy because I've 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 seen what that winter was like. Um, so yeah, I think in hindsight, would I want to go back there? Never. But did it help me A, become a better person, B, become a better professional in terms of like obviously that experience helped us. And within a few months we got a call from a recruiter here that my husband had met before, and then because when he saw Canadian experience, that's the thing that we all struggled with initially, and then we found something right up our alley. We came back and
Nice.
we started our life here. But that those 9 months, I just feel that it made me a different person, a better person. I would like to believe, and I stopped taking things for granted, and I started being more grateful about normal things like getting groceries, finding groceries in normal stores. So yeah, that's that.
Oh, that's great. And I always, this is what I've seen. People who succeed well or do well in Canada are those who are resilient and who are ready to accept anything that comes their way. And this is one story, right? Again, this was a route that I never thought of, but you guys ended up taking it, which just shows resilience. Uh, just a few things. So, how long would you fly there, or would you drive there, and how long was the flight or the drive?
Okay, so we flew there. So there's no direct flight there, right? So you either go to Calgary or Edmonton, and then there's a flight from Calgary or Edmonton to Yellowknife. So there's no direct flight there. So even going from here, it would take a full day because Calgary Edmonton is about 3-4 hours, and then some layover at the airport, and then so yeah, an entire day is pretty much gone. Um, Coming back, so when we wrapped up from there, we drove from there. So that was we did that in 5.5, 6 days. So we would drive during the day and then stop over at a hotel, Airbnb in the night. So we Northwest Territories is just above Alberta. So first day we had to come down to Alberta, and then we started driving east, right? So from Alberta to Saskatchewan, and then Manitoba, and then we drove uh, from Alberta to Ontario, northern Ontario, and then we came down.
Eh,
So
eh,
that's something that we really enjoyed, and we did that. We wanted to do that because we kind of knew we were never going back to Yellowknife. So we wanted to do the whole Trans Canada kind of from north west to southeast. Um, it was it was an experience, but yeah, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah. And I assume you said you went in winter months. That's when you started. And what was
Yeah,
it?
so we
What is the average temperature on a good average day, and what was the very low temperature days?
we saw fields like -60. We saw that, like actual minus 45, 46, and then feels like -60. And average would be, I would say, -30. Uh, the if days where it was -20, people would be like, "Oh, this is so good." So yeah, it was very different cold than here, and you mentioned resilience, and then I think it helps to be resilient, but people will be like, people who were living there, uh, you have to You have to somehow survive, right? So you convince yourself, okay, this is better. So people would tell me, okay, this winter is much better than what you get in Ontario because it's, and no, that's not what it is. People would tell me, oh, below minus 15, you don't even feel anything. That's not what it is. Every um, uh, as each degree it goes down, you feel it. So minus 15 is much better than minus 30, 35, minus 40 for sure. Uh, our so many times initially our car battery, it would just freeze because they had like a special kind of blanket that you had to put on the on your car battery, otherwise it would not the car wouldn't start in the morning. Our cell phones, a couple of times they would just stop working because it was so cold. Shafqat, my husband, he would he you know him a little bit better, but he's very, this is what it is, let's make the most of it kind of a guy. Like he's like, "Uh, it's okay." Like I remember we moved in December, and about April, May, he mentioned, let's buy a property. And I was like, what the hell? It's like, yeah, no, it's okay. We're living here, so let's all start a business. Um, so so he would do some fun experiments. So he'd blow a bubble, and then it would just freeze, and just he would look things up over the internet, and just you have to make the most of it, right? Like we saw the Northern Lights so many times, even in those days. Like we made the most of whatever we could. I remember Frozen, the movie, it came out, and we were like, it's like, okay, this makes sense. Let's go watch it. Uh, I think another thing that helped me personally, or us personally, was the four of us got very close together because we had no one. So we had to like look for activities that we enjoyed doing. There were a few families, like about seven or eight, from the Indian or Pakistani background, but you have to. We didn't really, when we met with them, we didn't really feel any connection, and we were like, you know what, it's just us. I made a lot of Canadian friends. I made a lot of First Nation friends. I still am in touch with them, but it opened our eyes to things that that we never thought we'd experience. Like I know a lot about the First Nation culture now that I wouldn't have experienced if I was not living in yellow life. So resilience, making the most of it, being grateful for what you have are, I think, some of the key things to survive in a place like this.
Cool, thank you. One question. So, how long were the days or the nights when you were there?
So in winter, the day was, so sunrise would be at around 10, and sun would set at around 1:45ish. So about 2-3 hours of daylight. And then in summer, there would be no darkness. So there would be twilight. So sun would set at about 12:30, and then at about 2, it would rise again. So you wouldn't get like complete darkness ever. We would watch a movie and then come out of the theater at 10:30 in the night wearing our shades because it was like bright. And again, that's so in during winter, people would tell us that, you know what, just wait for the summer. It will be so much fun. You'd have long days. And but when summer came, our biological clock, or the kids were like, what, like they wouldn't want to sleep because it used to be so bright and sunny. We had to put like blackout curtains, and it was just very different, I would say. But
So, and how about life outside home, like restaurants? I remember you said like about something about Tim Hortons as well. Did you have Tim Hortons there, or? Yeah,
there
you
was
did.
one Tim Hortons, there was
One Tim
one
Hortons.
Walmart, there was one Superstore, there was one Shoppers, and that's about it. No shopping as such. Like there were no malls, there were no stores, like no clothing stores as such. Restaurants, hardly any. It's a town of 20,000 people. Like people didn't want to. Those who are living there are just living there. Like no, I think investors don't want to invest. There used to be a mall supposedly, but when we got there, all the stores were empty. Like it was just a ghost kind of an empty mall. There was a restaurant that served seafood, like just like small things here and there, like no fancy chains, nothing of that sort.
Got it. Thank you, Ajay. This was great sharing your experience. Again, you're the first one I've come across sharing this experience, and every time we connect and we talk about it, I just it gives me goosebumps as well, and I enjoy this, like the stories you share, and that's why I thought it would be valuable if I can just bring you on the podcast and you can share with a wider audience. Before we end or move towards the ending, any advice you would have for the new immigrants coming in to Canada? Any tips, any suggestions? And let me add another question, which I thought I'll keep for the end, but maybe you can just club them together. Given you have background in HR, any tips and advice you can add to your answer with regards to finding a job and starting a career here in Canada?
Yeah. I think that was the overall advice that I would give anyone, uh, and I think it applies to anything new that you want to do in life is positivity. And the positivity should come from within and from uh, from outside as well. So be very careful about who you are surrounding yourself with. Like even now, you will find people who who will tell you all the things that can go wrong. Uh, but you have to find your circle where people motivate you, or people like bring that positivity in you if you don't have it from within, because any change is difficult. No change is easy, right? Like you, when you uproot yourself from anywhere and then you try to make any place a new home, it is never easy. You change a job. Change comes with its challenges and difficulties. But a change like this, moving countries, coming, most of us South Asians, we when we're coming from India or Pakistan or Middle East, we're not used to the weather. We're not used to the fact that you have to do all your work here yourself. Like it's a different kind of life here. So it will be challenging. But if you are positive about the challenges, if you know why you're doing this, then it helps you navigate through those difficult times. Again, it's easier said than done. I remember we were also told by some of the people that we ended up surrounding ourselves with, because we had some like that as well. Oh, there's no way you will find a job in Toronto. There's no way you will come back. Nobody lives there. You will not find a job in your field, or you'll have to do something else. You will find many people like that. We decided to like distance ourselves from we decided to not hang out with people like that, because as it is difficult. So make sure that you're focused, you know why you're doing this, and then the challenges become a bit easy. Communicate. If you're doing it with a family, with a partner, try to keep that bond intact, and like keep like I said, when we moved to Yellowknife, we had like we had arguments, we were fighting, because it was we were both struggling. We had kids who were struggling as well. So we had to make sure to preserve our bond. We had to make sure know to remind each other that we were in it together. So if you're moving as a single person, then as well, like to get the support from wherever you can, and if you're moving as a family, to keep that bond intact, whatever that means. And then I think you have, like, and you also mentioned this, you have to have a network. So you have to go and meet the right people. You have to come out of your shell. You are the new one here, so you have to make that effort. You have to reach out, whether it's reaching out on LinkedIn, whether connecting with your old alumni networks, friends of cousins. Like, you have to. You cannot sit and wait for opportunity to knock at your door, because it won't. You have to make the effort, and then things fall in place. If you're doing it with the right intention, if you're giving in your best effort, probably not in the first 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, but if you're doing the right things, in I I think 99.9% people that I know are now well settled wherever they are.
Cool. Thank you, Ajay. This was amazing, amazing story, and thanks for making out time for this. Which social media handles do you prefer? I can leave in the description of this video where people, if they want to reach out to you, if they have any questions, primarily with regards to Canadian immigration and all, they can reach out. So if you can just name them, and then I'll seek the link from you and I put them in the description.
LinkedIn is best for this, I guess.
Cool, cool. Thank you, Ajay. This was really helpful, and
Thank
talk
you,
to you later.
Beros.
Thank you.
Take care.